everybody. Welcome. So glad that you're here. I'm with my friend today, Kevin Chaney. Kevin, how are you today?
Max, thanks. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. And you're coming from San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio.
Beautiful, beautiful part of the country. And you're involved in real estate. So why don't we jump right in? Listeners want to know how you got involved in real estate and what some of your wins have been before you got into real estate.
I tell you, I flipped my first house 25 years ago, Max. I had no money, and somehow I ended up actually acquiring it with no money down. And then another one came shortly thereafter, and then I got out of that, and I drifted into a different career. I practiced law for a time, and then I had a manufacturing company. And when I sold my company, I got back into real estate investment and development. And I later got my license, but my passion has been investment, development, because I can working with people.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that sounds good. I want to know more about development. You know, I shoot myself and punch myself for not building any houses. I really wanted to, but I don't know, around 2019 or so, 2018, 2019, we all thought there was going to be like a bubble busting, and the folks who had a bunch of inventory of half-finished houses didn't do well. I know there's been some changes in the commercial market that you're heavily, you're involved in or have expertise, but on the residential side, I always wanted to build some houses, but I was struggling to have a good floor plan and really have a good crew. The labor was getting really tight. What has your experience been like developing projects, and what are some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, challenges, the biggest challenge, of course, during the pandemic, we had a fairly substantial project for us. It was 15 homes in urban San Antonio. We had cleared some ground, and these were not inexpensive homes. They're $700,000 homes.
Right.
And there's a lot of movement back to urban San Antonio by professionals, empty nesters that they don't want to give up the square footage, but they don't want the giant property, right? So, but they still have a life, and they don't want to live in a 700 square foot flat. So we built some substantial homes. They sold well, but with the cost of materials, in the later stages of the pandemic, that really made the final few difficult. It was a challenge. And with crew, subs are having a terrible time keeping crew because a lot of them would just go home and not work. And so projects would take a bit longer. We have, I think, like most places in the US, San Antonio, major city, very low inventory right now. I'm sure it's the same in DFW. So there's a good market for if you're selling. There's a good market. A lot more buyers than there are homes, but and in commercial, we had a good running commercial even during the pandemic, with prices going up because of you had some businesses that moved out of commercial, but you had more that were ready to move in, and the restaurants would close. But when restaurants came back to life, you had second-gen restaurants that people were eager to occupy. And so it hasn't been as bad as one might think in spec building. That's not really my taste. I did it, have done it, but I much prefer renovating, working with existing properties, both on the commercial and residential side. More on the residential. I have my fill. I have my portfolio of commercial, and I'm happy with that. Now I really love doing the residential.
Obviously becoming an attorney and practicing, I mean, that's not an easy feat. Most people don't ever do that. How has having that legal background helped you navigate, real estate deals?
It gave me an insight into, it's going to sound stating the obvious, the legalities of a transaction, because we don't often think about that. Somebody who just buys their first house, second house, or even their third, they don't think about all the legal ramifications involved in a purchase of either selling or buying. And so it gave me a more of a greater perspective of what's involved and what can be done and ways. I was in a rural area practicing law with a lot of agricultural clients, and wraparound mortgages were very common, where mom and dad would owe the bank, but junior would buy the farm and pay them, and then they would pay the bank. And a lot of conveyances that were not your standard buy-sell agreement for the house in the suburbs. Mm-hmm. So that was it. Brought a different perspective and a greater perspective, I think, for me.
Sure. So let's talk about who is a good fit to work with you. Obviously, you're very selective with who you work with, but for those folks, you can inject a lot of value and help them. Who is the ideal person that you work with, as far as location and needs? Somebody listening to this, how would they know if they're a good fit to reach out to you and get, some of your books and information and guidance and wisdom?
Well, we're a San Antonio company, and we only serve the San Antonio area. I'm big on being local and helping, the local San Antonians. And I work predominantly with seniors. So senior homeowners living in San Antonio. The ideal client, I am both an investor and an agent. So if a senior homeowner needs or wants to move out of their house, whether they want to downsize or they want to go to a different city or to a personal care facility, et cetera, whatever their situation requires, if they want to list their home, I'm happy to list it if it's in marketable condition. Because a lot of people think, oh, the market's hot, I'm going to list my house. But then they find that because their house is needing major repairs, or it's distressed, or it's not what the market's really wanting right now, then they end up spending a great deal of money on fees and closing costs and so forth. It might not be in their best interest. If the house is great, in great shape, I'd love to list it, and that might be the best thing for you. Alternatively, as an investor, whether it's time, or you don't have the client doesn't have the money to make the repairs, they need the money for other things like moving into a personal care facility or assisted living, a medical emergency. They need out now, they're financially distressed, or the house is physically distressed. That's a perfect fit as an investor, because I can come in with cash and close the deal quickly. They can get the cash they need and move on. And, it really depends on their situation. In many cases, they do better like that than they would if they set out and say, oh, I need to renovate my kitchen, and I need to update this and update that. And then they don't always spend the money wisely, or maybe they don't get the best advice, and they come out on the shorter end.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're not doing this very often to identify good advice from bad advice. But bad advice has an opportunity cost. The money that you lose that you don't even know about can be in the tens, 20s, 30s of thousands, or 30,000 plus by picking the wrong person, the wrong strategy. So if you're listening to this, I highly recommend that if you're in San Antonio, your first call needs to be Kevin, because you want to get advice. And I mean, obviously, he was an attorney. He's used to giving out smart advice, but it's like, you want to get advice on your perspective, because I'm sure there's people who call you that aren't a good fit, and you know how to, direct them to a different person. You have a whole network of folks. But what are some of the biggest mistakes beyond those that you see people make, where they don't even realize like what they could have had? I mean, are there any other mistakes that you see?
Well, you know what? Deferred maintenance is a terrible mistake. And so that's something that I preach on a lot. Don't defer that maintenance. There are 5 key areas that you can take care of your home and preserve your property. For most people, it's their biggest asset. Mm-hmm. And you have to preserve that, because for many people, as you get older, it becomes your nest egg. Mm-hmm. A nest egg's a nest egg only if you can liquidate it and use the money to do what you really need most with it. And so preserve your property, and deferred maintenance is a huge mistake. Sometimes it's so, when I was growing up, we only had 1 or 2 home shows on, and they were on PBS, right? This Old House and another one. And now with the home shows being just on every network, people have, I think they romanticize renovating. They underestimate what's really involved. And if they can do it in 30 minutes on HGTV, well, you know, I could probably add $20,000 worth of value to my home, but it rarely works out that way. And you can always find a contractor that's willing to do what you ask them to do, but it might not add any value to your home, and it might be a bigger mistake in the end. You know, it's just adding a pool before you sell your home is not going to get you dollar for dollar back.
No, yeah, I agree with that. So another really cool, unique part of your local program, which I haven't seen very many other people do, is you've created a workbook. And this workbook, it really addresses not just selling your house or staying in your home, but it talks about how to help yourself or your parents go find another place to live, a senior home of some kind, how to pick a place to live, how to pay for it, all really important topics I think people don't want to talk about, because, you know, it's just sort of like you're sort of admitting that, you know, you're getting closer to the finish line. Mm-hmm. What are some ways that you use that resource to help people, and what are some of the pitfalls that you help people in San Antonio avoid when they're trying to find a senior housing, you know, home to live in for themselves or their parents?
Well, thank you for the plug on the book and the workbook. My senior housing action plan. The goal was to present the pros and cons of, like you said, either selling your house, and there are several ways to sell your home, or staying in your home, and the things, and I discuss in the action plan the things that you need to do to stay in your home, and then senior housing alternatives. Knowledge dispels fear and builds confidence. It's an old adage, but people, they get analysis paralysis, and they don't know who to turn to. They don't know where to find information that's reliable and trustworthy. And so our goal is to, through our workbook and the action plan itself, is to take them step by step. Senior homeowners living in San Antonio, or family members of senior homeowners, take them step by step so they can see all the options that are available to them. If we know all the options that are available to us, we can make an informed decision. And if we can make informed decisions, we're less likely to have financial hardship, loss, or just plain, you know, losing time. I'm 61. I don't want to lose any more time. And that in and of itself is hugely valuable. And also, I think most of us with kids want to be able to provide some sort of legacy. So the book is there to help you preserve what you have, help you to deal with any transitions that you're facing or that your loved one's facing, and just so that they can make the very best decision for their specific housing needs.
Awesome.
So we have referral partners to answer your question more directly. We have referral partners. We do the research. We provide them with suggestions, and sometimes we're not a fit. Sometimes they don't want to sell, whether listed or to me as an investor. I'm happy to put them in touch with people that can help them make the changes in their home that they need to make the repairs to their home that they need to make. And if they're on a very tight budget, well, we have resources for that too, to direct them to people that can help for that as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, once again, congrats on becoming a published author. That's obviously something that not a lot of people do. And you were a published author before you even came to us, and we helped you get this word out. Yeah. You know, and our role is to kind of be the bridge, right, between, you know, you have so much, you know, your programs and your, you know, vision for helping San Antonio is really big. And it's been a pleasure to just kind of help get your books out faster so that you can, use them. So how do you plan to use your book to reach more, folks who need help in the San Antonio area?
I'm making the book available in large measure. I would, if somebody is a San Antonio senior homeowner and they need this book, I want to get them a free copy of the book.
Amazing.
So the book retails for $12.99, and the workbook retails for $49. I don't have my glasses on. $49.99. But it's so. My wife and I, we both grew up poor. And it is so important to us that we help people that are financially distressed whenever we can. And I'm not saying that, I'm not boasting, I'm not trying to boast, but I want to get a copy of this free to senior homeowners who need it, or their family members, so that they can avoid those financial mistakes, and they could be just ruinous in your golden years. We're supposed to ideally enjoy those golden years, right? But so many seniors. Here's a very troubling statistic, Max. The Fed did a study, this was 4 years ago, but I think it's still very relevant, that 44% of Americans could not afford an unexpected $400 expense. That's not even a set of tires. It's sobering. And 21% of Americans don't have any retirement savings, and 1 in 3 have less than $5,000 in savings. My heart really goes out to people in that situation, and I don't want them to incur further loss. And the senior demographic, as you well know, is growing exponentially. Mm-hmm. And it's our largest demographic. While some seniors may be at their most affluent in their lifetime at 70, many are at their most vulnerable. So that's our goal, is to help those people, get the information to them. And if they do business with us, great, because we have a valuable product and we're big on integrity. But maybe their situation doesn't line up with what we do. We're happy to help them find the avenue that helps them best.
Wonderful. Well, that is great. And I know that you've tried and done, so many things in your business career to reach out to new, people who need help, and, people who need to sell their land. And like I said, you have a lot of experience doing this. And so not necessarily trying to compare, but what has your experience been? We've really enjoyed partnering with you to help get your book published and get it out there.
Thank you. You guys have been awesome. Thank you.
Can you, share a little bit of insights? Has the program been, beneficial to you, or would you recommend it to somebody else?
Hugely beneficial. And because not only have you expedited the publishing of the book, but you've brought in a complete support network. So somebody who is that has a background in real estate, but doesn't have that big safety net, that support system, Savior Publishing House provides that, has provided that, and it's been great. Everything from the masterminds to the expediting the publishing and promotional materials. It's been super.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, we're glad to partner with people who go and put it into action and help all of those folks in San Antonio. So a lot of them right now are asking themselves, how do I get a copy of this book, and how do I reach out to Kevin? So if somebody wants to reach out to you, what is the best way that they can do that as we're wrapping up?
Yeah, well, please visit my website, and that is sametrohomebuyers.com, SA San Antonio. Again, we serve only the San Antonio market, the greater San Antonio market. So sametrohomebuyers.com, or if they want to, I answer my own phone. If they want to call me at 210-469-3827, and you'll speak with me.
Hey, amazing. Yeah. And it's a free call, right?
It's a free call. Yeah. And if I'm eating dinner, I'll get back to you.
Man, that's wonderful. Well, good. Well, we're really excited to see the program continue to develop, and we'd like to have you back on to get a market update as things are changing in San Antonio. Does that sound good to you? If you,
I'd be happy to anytime. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolute joy. Thanks everybody for listening today. Once again, Kevin's an incredible resource. I highly recommend him and would, send my parents to him in San Antonio. So if you're in San Antonio, you need some help, reach out to Kevin. He wants to share the information and the wisdom so that you don't end up making a mistake. That is all for today. Until next time, bye everybody. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day.